Hello and welcome to Stuart Melville College. Today we're going to discuss the Scottish Government's recent plan for a minimum price on alcohol. On my left we have Craig Gill and Hussam Ali, and on my right we have Dougal Johnson and Michael Abbott. To start us off, I'm going to pass over to Craig Gill to answer the question, is the minimum price for alcohol a good thing for Scotland?
I think on this issue it's definitely a good thing. It's the duty of a government to look after its people, and international studies have shown that the increase in price of alcohol decreases consumption, and with around 1 in 20 deaths in Scotland being attributed to alcohol, the issue's never been greater.
I certainly agree with Craig that minimum pricing on alcohol is a very topical issue for Scotland, given that Scotland does have a bit of a drink problem. But the problem that I have with the minimum pricing policy is that I don't think it will deter people who are determined to go out and have a good time and to get drunk. I think that drinking alcohol is something that is very embedded in our culture. But I think it will take a lot more than just a very sledgehammer type economic policy like minimum pricing to sort of bring about a real cultural shift, which is what we need.
So if alcohol is so crippling to our society, how would you solve the problem?
Well, I think we certainly need to change the way in which we educate young people about alcohol. It's perfectly fine to drink, have fun with friends, but also to be aware of, drinking in moderation.
It's not necessary that young people will refrain from alcohol if the price goes up, because young people, when they're determined, they are willing to go to certain extents to get what they want, and this could resort to crime, increasing crime rate, because people don't care if it's too expensive, they'll find a means.
Well, firstly, in the last decade there's been £3.56 billion of government expenditure towards healthcare for those who are excessive drinkers or have alcohol problems, which represents a figure of £900 per adult. If the minimum price of alcohol is introduced, even if it only represents a small reduction in heavy drinking, it's still an improvement.
I certainly think that the minimum price will only harm those who are normal, regular consumers of alcohol in moderation.
Well, a minimum unit price of around 50 pence, so that's price per unit is, I think, where it needs to go. A 2010 study found that a minimum unit price of 50 pence would save about 3,000 lives. But I think just going back to Dougal's point, I think those who are in drinking in moderation, they're more adult. I think they're willing to pay that price because it's going to lead to a decrease in consumption for those who are younger. I'm
going to pass over to Hussam. Do you think that things like booze runs to the English border could happen?
Alcohol runs, definitely, especially most of them are going to try and start importing alcohol as well, because the average price per unit is going to be high here. When they go abroad, they'll try and smuggle in alcohols and sell on.
So do you think that a minimum price is the best way to go, or do you think taxation on alcohol would benefit more, giving more revenue to the government?
A minimum price obviously wouldn't instantly stop the alcohol problem, but as I said before, even if it makes a small improvement, it's still a reduction of those figures, and then less money needs to be spent on things like healthcare for those who drink excessively, and more money can be spent on things like education.
The government we wouldn't just look to increase the minimum price of alcohol. We'd look to use that alongside new initiatives to decrease drinking within youths.
Also, if we increase the price on alcohol, then VAT tax revenue goes up, which could also help towards other day-to-day problems. Either way, it's going to increase revenue. I mean,
I think the aim of having a minimum price is to deter the consumption of alcohol. I think we ought not to get distracted by having a minimum price on the bad, unhealthy goods like alcohol in order to finance other areas of expenditure. We have to remember that it's not in order to deter excessive alcohol consumption. But obviously, I don't think that's going to work. Though I think that in some ways it is possible that the SNP are trying to use Scotland as a sort of experiment and direct the world's attention towards Scotland. I think that in many ways the SNP are desperate to gain Scotland international recognition itself, separate from the UK, and having sort of extravagant policies like a minimum pricing on alcohol is a way to direct attention towards Scotland. So I think there's certainly a political motive aside from what is actually in Scotland's domestic interests.
Okay, so I'm going to pass you back.